again. So with the Terra Luna saga all but done, was Kwon to blame? Was there anything that could have been done differently which could have meant that Luna and everybody's accumulated wealth could still be around today? And how much responsibility do individual investors need to take, and how much can we place on a leader like Kwon? We're going to delve into that today and different people's viewpoints on that. We're also going to look at the markets, because the markets have been roiling green today, right? We've got 6.3% up on Bitcoin. All coins have really been moving. The likes of Ethereum up almost 10%, Phantom up 30%, and they're keeping their green level today. We've got the stock market showing really nice levels today. Dow Jones up 1.26%, S&P up almost 2%, and almost 3% on the Nasdaq. But overall, let's remember, it's still a heavy week of losses, right? And we're still heading into bear market territory on equities, and Bitcoin, let's be realistic, is still sitting at 30,000. Now, we spoke earlier about Bitcoin. Until we can get past 32,614 at this next level and at least secure this 30,000 level, then we can nullify the risk of the 24 for lower price points at 24,000, right? I continue to maintain that we're more likely to head to 24,000 than we are to recover, and that bias is healthy. It's better that I'm prepared for 24,000 than I am getting excited trying to chase green candles. I'm not doing any purchasing on this leg whatsoever. If we fall towards 24, I'm nibbling. But that's not what the reason of this episode is for. This video is to talk about Kwon, because Kwon was this 29-year-old, really charismatic, bit of an enigma-like character who had all of this power in his hands. If you go back a few months ago, there was not a foot that Kwon could place wrong. In fact, many people were saying that they wish their favorite project leaders were like Kwon, right? You had certain groups where they were saying, oh, we wish our protocol CEO was as popular as Kwon. But the reality is with that popularity, with that charisma, comes a whole lot of responsibility. And there were so many things, which are now coming out, which are now clearer with hindsight, that we could see that Kwon was letting some of this power get to his head. So we're going to try to delve into some of the pros and cons around whether Kwon was to blame. And more importantly, was there a chance that if there was a more experienced leader, maybe a more, let's say, rational leader at the time, Luna could have been saved? I mean, we don't want to be jumping on anybody's grave. We don't want to be these hindsight warriors. But the reality is we need to learn from these lessons so we can move forward. And we've spoken at depth about the responsibility we need to take. Remember when this first started happening, I came out and I said, we need to look ourselves in the mirror. We need to have the right portfolio allocations. And this channel specifically has been talking about this for a long time, right? And now you're seeing a lot of other channels coming out and saying, oh, you need to take care of your portfolio allocations. But the problem is they weren't putting their money where their mouth is. They weren't doing that. They were the ones getting you to place crazy allocations on certain projects, and the ecosystem plays, right? I'm focused on getting you guys focused on the blue chips, right? The big projects that are going to be here are going to stay. And that's the focus. So we'll come on to that. But let's just, play a little bit of devil's advocate to say, okay, what could have been done differently? Because the reality is, if you go back when Kwon was just a couple of months ago, when he announced that he was going to back Luna with Bitcoin reserves, he could not have done wrong. He was the poster child, because not only did the lunatics love him, which they've loved him for a long time, that it was the whole Bitcoin community liked Kwon, right? Because he was this savior. He became like this Michael Saylor type figure who was buying Bitcoin and announcing it publicly. And that really did G up the market. And it also got to Kwon a little bit too. Twofold. One, from an emotional perspective, right? You can start to think that you're bigger than you are, but also from a technical perspective, because he started announcing his buys. And that's when he started getting the attention of potential attackers. So that was the first kind of red flag, if you like, is once you start making yourself public, you become a public enemy, right? And somebody like Michael Saylor can get away with it because Michael Saylor is very experienced, very nuanced in the corporate world, in the traditional finance world. He's got a company. He's been in securities. If you listen to Michael Saylor speak versus someone like Kwon, it's very different in terms of their experience. Now, Kwon, of course, from a technical blockchain perspective, is very clever. But at the end of the day, he's 29 and he's young and he's got a lot more to learn, right? And this is part of his learning phase. And unfortunately, it was a catastrophic fall, one in which a lot of people really did suffer. And if you are suffering, shout out to you guys. You guys have got to, just really try to zoom out and say, hang on a second, this is just money. It's just crypto. I've still got my health. I've still got my family. I'm still in it to go again. And that's the reality. And if you need someone to speak to, DM me on Twitter, head into our Discord and have a chat. have a chat, because there's always a way out of this in crypto. And there's, if there, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger really is an important saying, because these are just lessons. Money was lost, but lessons have been learned, and lessons are very, very valuable. Okay, so let's come on to that, because one of the first things, that then started off some of the tension around Do Kwon, and we'll come back onto a few of the other things. But I just wanted to highlight this as well before we get into anything more about Do Kwon, because this article came out from Watcher Guru. And suspect invades Terra founder Do Kwon's home amid Luna UST. Now, I've not had the chance to fact check this, but if this is correct, guys, this is shambolic, right? This is horrible, and this is unjustified. There is nothing can justify, no matter how much money you've lost, your life savings, the rest of it, there is nothing that can justify you going to a person's house, the owner of a business, ultimately, right? And trying to invade the house or do any physical harm or damage to their loved ones or family or their safe place. That is absolutely wrong. And that is the first step. We need to take ownership. We need to look at ourselves in the mirror to say, we are the owners of our portfolios. Nobody puts a gun to your head and says, go to Binance and buy yourself some Luna. It's not what happened. You make the decision ultimately. And yes, leaders like Do Kwon, certain crypto people who have interest in VC funds and buying the crypto, they will say certain things. That's their natural bias, because they want the project to be successful. Obviously, Do Kwon thought it'd be successful. That's why he spent his whole life in it. He's lost more money in Luna than anybody else. That's the truth, right? Now, when you look at that, he spent, not only has he lost his money in Luna, but he spent the last period of his life working day in and day out for that project. So naturally, you have people who are leaders of projects, whether it's a Steve Jobs, whether it's a Jeff Bezos, who mean well in their project, and the projects can fail. And it's our responsibility to make sure we balance our portfolios. We should be the leaders of our portfolios. Now, that doesn't then nullify some of the other things, which I'm completely aware of, right? Things like this really did kick it off, right? So if you go back here into March, this was on the 9th of March, famously, Algod Trading says, if Luna breaks new all-time highs, I will short it with size. It's a big Ponzi. Pretty sure VCs will also hedge their investments on perps. And this kind of roots back to a theme we saw. And I don't think Do Kwon's the only crypto person to do it, because crypto is an echo chamber, right? In crypto, everybody's about their project, and nobody can see bad about their project, which is part of the problem. Now, when people were coming out with realistic criticisms, some of the smartest brains in the space were coming up with realistic criticisms towards Do Kwon about potential weaknesses, about potential flaws in Luna and the Terra ecosystem. Do Kwon didn't seem open to hearing it, right? He thought he had this beautiful system, loads of total value locked in Anchor, things are going great, you're 29, you're building a $60 billion ecosystem almost, what could go wrong? And you started seeing tweets like this, right? Yeah, but your size is not size. Statistically, you're dunking on 99+% of your community, but all right, someday your Ponzi will collapse, you can't keep fueling Anchor. This wasn't the only one. There were smart minds coming out, talking and saying, oh, you could get attacked like George Soros, and Do Kwon kept negating it. Other things which then add to that, the clip I played you the other day was around Do Kwon and how he said 95% of projects will fail, but there's some entertainment in watching it, right? Things like that don't sit well with people. So as much as we don't want to jump on somebody's grave, we have to realize that this was the type of person Do Kwon was, and he did have those failings, which is fine. Everybody has their failings. Now, coming on to another interesting thing is, could Luna have been saved? And for me, this is the more... what's the right word? This is the more emotional one that would get to me. This is the one that would actually, if I was a big Luna holder, like I know many of you guys were, and it really did affect you, this one would get to me more. Because when the whole thing happened, and I was following it minute by minute, like the rest of you guys, and if you had huge bags in Luna, no doubt you would have been glued to your screen. There were plenty of moments where a good leader could have figured it out. And by the way, when I say that, I don't mean to say this was a solvable solution, but I think there were definitely areas which could have been dealt with better. And no doubt Do Kwon and his team and the rest of them will do a post-mortem into this and find out what they could have done better. But I point to many other equities, right? Many other crypto projects which have had make or break moments, and they always come good. Well, not always, but they come good with sound management and sound decision-making with good communication. I mean, you look at the example of Robinhood. They came out, really badly in the negative at that point when they, with the whole GameStop saga, right? A huge, crazy Black Swan event, a 5 Sigma event, which is how their founder described it. And they got a lot of stick. A lot of people, rightfully so, don't like Robinhood. But the platform is alive. The CEO kept the platform alive. He raised the right funds. He pulled the right bells and levers to keep the system alive, which is his job. Now, Do Kwon had to do the same. His job as captain of the ship is to keep the system alive. The reason he has so much wealth, he has so much power, he had all the stuff which everybody put up with, right? The way he was speaking on social media, he still had the following because he kept the system alive, because he created an ecosystem where people were building wealth. And as long as he was doing that, he could keep his persona, right? The persona can work to say, oh, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I bought a load of Bitcoin, right? Your size is not size. You can carry on talking like that if you're making everybody money. But as soon as it goes wrong and things hit the fan, where did it go? And I think that's what frustrated people. He went very distant on social media. He wasn't on Twitter advocating. His team weren't there doing anything. There was no clear plan. And this is not just from us. Let's go to CZ, because CZ hits out, and we know Binance suspended trading. And then, by the way, they reopened trading on Luna as a validator decided to trade again. Whatever, I don't know what's going on there. But with CZ, let's take a look at this. At Binance, we prioritize user protection. We made the decision to suspend Luna and UST trading. Here's why. An exponential amount of new Luna were minted due to flaws in the design of the Terra protocol. Their validators have suspended their entire network, resulting in no deposits or withdrawal possible to or from any exchange. Some of our users, unaware of the large amounts of newly minted Luna, we spoke about this yesterday, guys. You are not buying the same project right now. People are buying this dip on Luna, right? Good luck. Billions and billions have been increased in supply. Like you're buying a version of like Shiba coin, the amount of circulation there is right now, without understanding that as soon as deposits are allowed, the price will likely crash further. Due to these significant risks, we suspended trading. So imagine, guys, it's gonna get a bit more deeper here in terms of what CZ is saying. But the first thing he said here at point 3, due to these significant risks, we suspended trading. He's had to suspend trading because of the risk that Luna is causing to Luna investors. Now, as Do Kwon, the founder, shouldn't that be that's your priority? Right? That's your priority. It's like, to think of another analogy, right? You're captain of your ship and somebody else coming to save your passenger life. Like, I don't know what you have in your country, but like the Royal Navy comes out to come save the passengers. Shouldn't it's the captain's job first. Captain's job to save his passengers. And Do Kwon wasn't there. So other platforms like CZ or Binance having to make the decision to stop it for them. While Binance always aims to be neutral, helpful, and protective of all users and their industry peers, and we typically refrain from commenting on other projects, I will break that rule this time. Again, an exception, right? He has no interest in jumping on Do Kwon or Luna. He has no interest. What reason would he have an interest? He needs to stay neutral. He's the casino. He makes money regardless of what the protocol is. The more attention, the better, if anything. But he knows he has to jump in here because something wasn't right. I am very disappointed with how this UST Luna incident was handled or not handled by the Terra team. That's a huge indictment, guys. A huge indictment, and it kind of just brings to the fruition from one of the biggest people in the space who have been there, seen there, done it, a multi-billionaire himself in charge of the whole of Binance, coming out and saying how it was not handled by the Terra team. We requested their team to restore the network, to burn the extra minted Luna, and recover the UST peg. So far, we have not gotten any positive response or much response at all. Again, a further indictment. Like, even if you have your own plan, that's fine. Have your own plan, right? But communicate with the people. Communicate with the stakeholders. Make it clear to CZ, no, thank you for your advice there on doing that. We're actually going this route. And tell us that route. What's going on? But the silence in those critical moments, guys, I know it doesn't feel like long, but 12, 14, 15 hours of not hearing is huge. When the price was falling that quickly, to not give clear communication to your holders was a huge moment. And whoever's in Do Kwon's team, whoever his advisors are, himself, what went wrong there? Where was the communication? I know you need to solve the issue. Many companies go through this. They have these crazy tests and they're very difficult. But that's when you need to show your resilience. That's when you need to show your strength. That's when you need to be present to then deliver for your team. This is in sharp contrast. It gets worse. This is in sharp contrast to Axie Infinity, where the team took accountability, had a plan, and were communicating with us proactively, and we helped. Guys, and again, if I was a big Luna holder, not that we want to dwell, we're going to come on to what we need to do from here on in. I don't want you guys to dwell, but this is what would be the indictment. This is it. Like he's pointing actively to when Axie Infinity had their issues on their chain and how they were accountable. Look at the words he's using. They were accountable. They took accountability. They didn't blame the world. Oh, it's a coordinated attack, right? Oh, the hacker did it. They had a plan, not just guessing and kind of, hoping it's going to recover itself. A clear plan, and were communicating with us proactively. 3 key components. Take responsibility, have a plan, and communicate that plan to everybody else. And then you could see, and we helped, right? Binance helped. And this is what we could feel all along were some of the failings which we saw with what happened with Luna. Now, let's finish off his final point before I give you a few more of my musings. We know that there are a few different opinions in the community. We felt suspending trading is the best way to protect our users at this time. So you got to understand, he's having to intervene to say, I'm going to suspend trading, not necessarily because it's definitely the right thing to do, but because I'm not hearing back from Terra. I'm not hearing back from Kwon on our advice. There's no communication. I'm left to have to make a decision without the full set of data. Okay, so he's right. There is a different opinion, but he had to do what he thought was best by Binance. Okay, and they've since, they've unlisted it. They've put it back on the list, right? They're trading it again based on the latest tweet. They'll resume spot trading at 2 p.m. for Luna BSD, UST BUSD. Fine, who cares? Now coming on to the point, leaders by nature, whether it's a CEO or a crypto founder here, they can fail, right? Failings happen, and it's not unique to Kwon or Binance. Steve Jobs failed multiple times. Travis Kalanick from Uber failed many, many times. And often at times, it's normally their third, fourth project, which becomes their poster child, their one that really makes it. So the reality is if Kwon, assuming he had good intentions, we don't find anything going on more nefarious in terms of a Ponzi, and that's all going to come out in the wash over time. But assuming he meant well, and he was attacked by coordinated attackers, and he showed some weaknesses as a CEO, as a leader, as an operator, would you invest in him again? That's really the question. And my answer would be, and I've always followed this kind of ethos, is an entrepreneur, or a jockey, as we like to say, who's been there and rode the race before. A far more seasoned jockey is what you need to back. You back the jockey, not the project. So no doubt, people like Andre Cronje, who's left because of the stake he gets on social media. We've covered that a lot on this channel. No doubt he will be back with many great projects. Somebody like Kwon, he will be back. You can't keep him down. He's 29 and he's had a $60 billion ecosystem in his control. You can't keep somebody like that down. They'll be back in crypto. And the reality is, smart money will back those people again. But I tell you one thing. Smart money has to be diversified money. You can back him again. That's not the issue. But the portion of your portfolio that you back him with, this time, if you've learned your lesson, will be a smaller portion of your portfolio that if it does well, it'll run. And then you're going to trim it back down to a small position. And if it does badly, it was something you're willing to lose to bet on a jockey that can achieve, who's built a $60 billion blockchain before, he could do it again. So we need to look in the mirror. Yes, what Kwon did, there were weaknesses in it. But for anyone who was 100% leveraged in the Luna ecosystem from an investment point of view, you've got to ask yourself what was going on. And the people I feel most bad for are the people who are directly invested in the Luna ecosystem. The people working for Terraform, the people working at LFG, the people building ecosystem projects day in, day out, coding and developing on the Luna platform that are now affected, right? Those are the people who couldn't necessarily diversify their time. But you and I who are investing in a portfolio, you should always be diversified. You should not be sitting there with 80% exposure to any one given project, because this kind of thing can happen. And now that you've had this warning from a top 10 crypto project over a matter of a couple of days, hours, falling to zero, we need to introspect and say, hang on, what have we learned from this? What can we take away to say, this person and this person made it seem like it was okay to go 70% in this project. I shouldn't have listened to that. I shouldn't have FOMO'd in here. I shouldn't have done this. I should have listened to this person instead. He was telling me to build a balanced portfolio, not to FOMO in, not to go greedy. Because when you get greedy, when things seem like they're too good to be true, you've heard it before, right? Maybe your mum's told you that. If things sound too good to be true, they often are. So there you have it, guys. There is a roundup on what's happened with Kwon, and could Luna have been saved? And I think that's the bit that really, really is a little bit upsetting, because I feel from the initial data we're seeing so far, there could have been more. There could have been more of a fight. But there's no point dwelling about that. It's gone. It's done. And we get up, we get back on the horse, we keep investing. And for anyone, again, I open that offer up again. Anybody who's been affected by the Luna problems, who's lost significant wealth in Luna, drop me a DM, speak to me in Discord. Let's have a chat. Let's help you guys in this difficult time. Because these are the moments, right? These are the moments as a crypto community we need to come together, because Luna falling doesn't help anyone in the crypto space. It doesn't help their competitors. It doesn't help Bitcoin. It doesn't help stable coins. It doesn't help the contagion as a whole. And in fact, it's put a bit of a dark patch on our community. And we can see how regulators are now looking over at us like we don't know what we're doing. We're unsophisticated experiments which we were trying on the blockchain. Hope you guys enjoyed this video as well. Let me know your comments below, what you think, where you stand on this issue. It'd be good to get everybody's view on this as well. But don't forget to hit up the like button and subscribe as always if you appreciate this type of content, like my perspectives. Consider checking out our course member live streams, ijaz.uk/member, to join our 3 times weekly course member live streams. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.